Thank you for that introduction. Imagine an ice cream store with only 5 flavors or a paint store with only 3 or 4 colors. That's pretty much the media landscape that Tribe Herald is going into, and that's the landscape that we are looking to disrupt. So like we said before, Tribe Herald is a multicultural digital media company built on community and diversity from the ground up. When looking at this picture, your average media company will say that they see 5 people, maybe 5 young people, maybe 5 young men. What we see is people who may belong to any number of groups at the same time. People who've never been targeted on an identity level, on a intersectional level, based on all the groups to which they belong. We're in the middle of a demographic shift in general, where 90 million Americans, as was said before, could be expected to be taking place in the multicultural economy. When it comes to media, that means a landscape which is old-fashioned and ostracizes diverse communities in general, and that doesn't appreciate what's called now intersectionality, which doesn't appreciate multifaceted identities, which doesn't appreciate people's attachments to different cultures and communities at the same time. In fact, individuals have many unique needs and concerns that traditional media up until now is failing to address. Enter Tribe Herald. We're coming into an internet publishing landscape which shows no sign of slowing down, really. 10.93% growth in this year, followed by 10.5% in 2021 and another 10% in 2022. 65% of internet users paid for some online content in 2019 with an average expenditure of $10 per user per month. This is a media consumption landscape that's being redefined by younger and younger users. Younger millennials and Gen Z are defining the new tech-enabled, entrepreneurial, community-building media landscape with an emphasis placed on sharing, an emphasis placed on social networking, and an emphasis placed on getting messages out from one person to as many people as possible. Enter Tribe Herald into this landscape. We call ourselves the digital consolidation of multiculture. People belong to multiple cultures, multiple communities. We want to exist there at the nexus of those communities, providing content, community building, and providing culturally competent media solutions for advertisers and brands looking to connect to consumers on levels that, on deep levels of engagement that they haven't been previously able to do. Now, we're going to initially concentrate on an underserved population within the Jewish community, being Jews of color. That number corresponds to 20%, according to the Jews of Color Initiative, 20% of Jews in America are ethnically or racially diverse. That means out of 8 million, at approximately 1.8 million people could be considered to be Jews of color, spread out around the country. These are people who have not been targeted by any mainstream media any mainstream Jewish media outlet as of today. 700,000 people in New York, 200,000 people in Los Angeles who have yet to see themselves represented in Jewish media. By choosing the Jewish community initially, this puts us in competition with established brands like the Jewish Journal based out of Los Angeles and the J Weekly based out of San Francisco, but it also places us in competition with national brands like The Forward, who still publish in Yiddish. They're an over 100-year-old brand. Tablet Magazine, which is no friend to Jews of color, and as has been shown by some of their recent content, and Israeli brands like Arutz Sheva and Haaretz, which don't really concentrate on the needs of the diaspora in general the same way that an American Jewish media outlet would. And the JTA, the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, is a newswire, not really centered on community building and reaching users the same way that Tribe Herald is. So going to market, we are basing our business model largely on subscriptions, with $9 per month as a subscription, bringing in $540,000 in revenue by the end of 2022. Now, this is going to be combined with other revenue, such as community centers, such as workshops, webinars, things like that, bringing in $3.8 million in other revenue for a grand total of $4.3 million in revenue by 2022. Our team, starting with me, the co-founder and CEO, I'm also the chief product officer. I've been a hip hop artist in the Jewish world for 20 years. I'm also a web developer by trade, and I was with Quartz for 6 years as a senior web developer there. Richonne is our editor. He's a 3-time published author, and he was a former editor at Tablet Magazine. And our chief advisor, Jay Loft, who is the former publisher of Quartz, who took Quartz from a startup to a 9-figure acquisition in just over 6 years. And filling out the rest of our team, we have Tim as our CFO, Rich Gora, who's our general counsel, and Robin Washington, who has been active in Jews of color communities for about the past 20 years and who's been on public radio for about as long. So what have we done so far? In March, we launched our newsletter to small 300 subscribers. Then we would have a Facebook page launched to about 500 followers in April. That would go up to 1,000 subscribers by June when we would launch the website, and 4,000 users on the site. Then we would launch the store store Tribe Avenue in July. And now we have the newsletter, the store, multiple advertising contracts in place, and advertisers running on the site. The website's showing to 19,000 users monthly and 45 contributors from all over the world, with the store bringing in 10,000 in sales. We're looking to scale that up to 100,000 users with 100 contributors from around the world. In addition to creating a co-working space complete with QSR in the co-working space to bring together that idea of community, in addition to pop-ups appearing across the country to bring the TribeHerald experience of diversity and of diverse communities to various places, in addition to Spanish-speaking and family-oriented content coming out as well. We're also looking to expand to sponsored and branded experiences for brands that are looking to connect with underserved communities. So we're looking to raise 1.1 million in a convertible note. This money is going to be going to largely to hiring staff and to producing more content for the site, for the mobile app, and for all of the other different platforms that we're currently operating on. A large amount is going to go to securing and building out our first community center location. We're looking not only in the 5 boroughs of New York City, but also up in the Catskills region of New York, because this has traditionally been a vacation destination for the Jewish community. We're looking to establish a presence there as well. All the overhead and advertising and PR expenses round out the rest of this. And then the crowdfunding deal at $250,000. A large part of this is going to customer acquisition and to marketing, with portal fees and offering expenses for the crowdfund, and public relations, app development, and yet again, increasing our staff and increasing our number of content creators, making up the rest of the use of those funds. And if there's any questions, please ask me.
Thank you, Yitz. Great job. Thank you for presenting today. So as we're getting some questions in from the audience, again, I remind you from the audience, if you could type your question in, you can either type that in anonymously, or you can also put that in with your name. I have been just considering each and every person anonymously. What your question, if your name does go with your question is then seen by the audience as well, and the answer is heard live as you have seen. And Jonah has gone through and typed in some answers to some questions. So we have one here question that's coming into we have a question. So let's talk about, this is a question, I have this question. So with 90 million people that fall into this multicultural economy, that really doesn't sound like a minority group. You know, you talked about a demographic shift. So if that not being a minority, that sounds like a lot of people, you know, there's maybe what, 300 million Americans, and 90 million sounds like a very large chunk of that. So why are these people being ignored in traditional media? And, you know, who are these people besides just the Jews of color? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, like I was saying before, these 90 million people aren't not being targeted. This is a media-driven economy. Of course, they're going to be targeted in some type of way, but not in the same way that TribeHerald is. A person of color might be seen as only a person of color and might be expected to follow a certain paradigm or follow certain buying patterns without people thinking that, oh, well, this person's also Jewish. This is also a woman. This is also an immigrant. This is also someone from this group or that group. TribeHerald tries to see people for their whole selves and is targeting people on a very deep identity level, whereas someone else may just be putting them into one of a few set categories. We're creating communities and creating products that see people as more multifaceted individuals than traditional media is seeing them currently.
I see. So the more so the sense of this community and having an opportunity to belong but not be necessarily labeled. Is that
exactly belonging without necessarily labeling, belonging while belonging, connection without the feeling of division.
Okay. I encourage you, if you have questions, to ask additional questions. I see we still had coming into the chat some additional questions for Jonah with e-bumps. And Jonah, if you feel like you want to answer that in the chat, you're more than welcome to. The other questions that I have for you, Yitz, is why go after Jews of color first? Why not broaden your initial entry to the rest of this 90 million multicultural economy?
So initially, we're going for Jews of color because, like I said, I'm a hip-hop artist. I've been a hip-hop artist in the Jewish world for 20 years and have established myself as a voice for Jews of color on various different platforms. And also, as has our editor, Richonne, has really established himself as a name for Jews of color. So we're going to leverage our existing social fan bases and our existing fan bases as our customer base that we're going to start from within the community, within the Jewish community. This isn't the only community that we're going to be targeting. We're going to be also targeting the LGBT community and moving on to other underserved communities that exist at these intersections that aren't being served currently.
Okay, great. So we do have a question here. I'm not sure if this question is meant for e-bump still, or if I think this does also relate to TribeHerald. So we'll ask this question here. So what are your direct customers that will engage you? Are you engaging with any larger agencies or any other avenues to engage your customers?
So on the one hand, of course, we have our subscribers and the people that are going to be paying for our content on the various different platforms. And as far as on the advertising side, we are engaging with yes, and we're doing both. We're operating on both fronts. We're engaging with agencies and also engaging directly with retailers. So far, we've had more. We're more heavily dealing with boutique agencies, but we're also dealing with retailers directly.
Got it. So that did answer that second question. There was a second part to that. Are you going direct with retailers? And
yeah, we are. Yes, retailers and agencies both. Brands that are looking to connect to underserved communities, looking to connect to people, like I said before, on a really deep level. We have over 30% open rate in our newsletter. People are always engaging with our content. So brands that are looking to do that and not just put themselves in front of an audience are generally the brands that come to us.
Got it. You mentioned before, I know you've talked to me about this. I get the privilege of hearing from you some more than just this presentation, but you mentioned before about early adopters to different communities. And specifically, I remember us having a conversation about coffee. And we talked about UBAN and the Jewish nation. So we talked about that. And so there's always some early adopters who do adopt things. Do you have really some great advocate stories that you can talk about on some of your early adopters?
Oh, definitely. We've had people, there's no shortage of messages into our Facebook inbox of, this is the first time that I've ever seen someone that looks like me in an ad. This is the first time that I've ever seen someone that looks like me being profiled in, in a publication. We've, when we interviewed Raquel Montoya Lewis, who's a Native American judge who's Jewish and from the Northwest, she said, I didn't think anyone would research me to look into me, not knowing that there's a whole Native American Jewish community that's looking up to her. We're the level of touch that people seem to be, the level of just gratitude that we're seeing from some of our early adopters is really touching to us too.
Great. And so this is not just about Jews. This is about all these other people as well. I know
served communities.
You are targeting that market first, but this isn't just about that. This is larger than that. This is a bigger movement, more acceptance among others. I know you're targeting that.
As markets go, like I said, the Jewish community, LGBT community, and other underserved communities are going to be on our radar over the next 3 to 5 years.